Hey everybody, Quantum here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the best decks you could be using for the upcoming Duel Triangle event for October 2024. There are 3 different teams you can join, and of course you can change it up during the duration of the event, but we're going to take a look at what is the best fusion decks, synchro decks, and link decks that you could be using for what's legal in this event. So let's go ahead and jump straight in. Alright, so as you can see on screen here, we have 11 different decks that you could be using for this event. We're going to cover each one a little bit in depth here. But before we get started, I just want to say the reason why you may want to play the Link, the Fusion, and the Synchro event separately is that you want to get the titles for each of these individual extra deck strategies to get the final title for getting all 3 of the individual titles. But of course, you can just stick to one extra deck strategy. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the 4 Link decks that we have created here. Alright, so starting off, you know it comes up almost every event where this is legal. We have Salamangreat, and the one thing I want to show you guys when we go over these decks is we're going to look at the archetype and check out what's been forbidden and or limited, particularly for this event. And as you can see here for Salamangreat, you can't use fusions or Xyzes if you're on the link portion of this deck, so we can't use certain cards like the Salamangreat Blaze Dragon, not that you'd really use that anyways, but the only thing that really gets hurt from this Salamangreat strategy is the ability to use the Salamangreat Mirage Stalio. This is a pretty important extender for the deck, so it is unfortunate that you're not going to be able to use this, but the deck can definitely go back to what it was before, which is going to use Update Jammer, Splash Mage, and Transcode Talker in order to go into Access Code OTK on turn 2. Now, because, we'll get to it in a bit, the Tenpai Dragon event is expected to be one of the most popular decks for the Synchro strategy, and if you're playing as the Link deck, you are most likely going to go up against other Synchro and other fusion strategies, which means if you're going to go up against Synchro decks, you can expect to go up against Tenpai Dragon, which means they're going to want you to go first. And Salamangreat is actually a decent option for going first because you can set up a pretty nice end board, and you have a lot of room for non-engine. So as you can see here, we've got 2 Effect Veilers, 1 Salamangreat Mirror, which can be a free special summon when you add it to hand. You got 1 Salamangreat of Fire. This, I don't think you necessarily need to play 3 if you're going to go with the Lady Debug version, but there's a couple of different variations you can play this deck with. We've got triple Ash Blossom, which is legal for this event. Only 1 Foxy. Still, you could maybe play more of this if you want, as having additional starters in your deck. 3 Salamangreat Gazelle, 3 Spinny. So, in previous events, Gazelle was back limited to 1, so you have full power Salamangreat basically here. You're playing the Weasel. This is a good extender, but you don't have ability to play the Synchro, which was actually the Brotherhood card, this Synchro here, in order to get another free body on field. So because you're on the Link strategy, you can't play this extender either. So the Weasel is still a good extender because it's a free special summon, but you won't be able to Synchro into it and continue on it, making additional plays. You can still play the Code of Soul, Lady Debug, 1 Falco, 1 Jack Jaguar, 1 Fowl, and 1 Nibiru. You could opt to play more, but Nibiru is probably going to be pretty weak if you're not on the Synchro team, in my opinion. And again, I could be wrong, but basically, Tenpai Dragon, they're going to do their stuff in the battle phase. Fusion decks probably don't need the special summon all that much either. So Nibiru, as a Link player, is probably not going to be too much value. The only reason you might want to play it is because it could come up. It's also discard fodder, and you can also use it with Crossout in case you get Nibiru, because other decks that are in the other events for Fusion and Synchro will definitely want to play Nibiru, because into Link decks, Nibiru is pretty good, right? And I just realized here I forgot to add in Cynet Mining into this deck. So you definitely want to include 2 of those and probably cut 2 things out. In this build, playing Cynet Mining is pretty important because it's an additional extender if you do get ashed. And one of the most important things to know for this event is Max C is banned, as well as a number of floodgates. So Shifter's banned, Max C is banned. So that makes Link strategies a little bit more viable as well, because you don't have to worry about, playing into a Max C. You do have to worry about Nibiru still, but that's why you want to try to play as many extenders as you can. In most decks that I showcase here, I'm going to be opting to try to put in 2 to 3 Thrust, as well as 1 Threatening Roar, because if you get hand trapped by Tenpai, if they make you go first, this is basically you're guaranteed I'm not going to get OTK'd by your next turn, because you Thrust, set a Threatening Roar, and you're good into Tenpai, most likely next turn. And we'll cover Tenpai a little bit later. But the reason why this is important is because Dimensional Barrier is also banned. We're going over a lot of important information here, but you can't play this card, otherwise it would probably be a 3 of in every non-Synchro deck. So just having the ability to Thrust for a Talon's Thrust for a Threatening Roar is pretty important. You do want to play this close to 40 as possible, so maybe you do cut the Nibiru here. It maybe doesn't provide too much value because the odds that you draw the 1 of Crossout out out in Nibiru is probably pretty low. 42 I think is a good number, but continuing on with the deck list here, we've got double thrust. You got one Salamangreat Sanctuary, one Will, double called by still because you still want to negate Ash, triple Salamangreat Circle, one Crossout Designator, one Salamangreat Charge, one Threatening Roar for that anti-Tenpai combo I was talking to you about, and then triple Infinite Impermanence, and of course some of the strongest end board pieces for Salamangreat in Salamangreat Rage and Salamangreat Roar. So, you know, setting up the Omni Negate Roar is pretty good because on the Synchro side, one of the most popular things that Tenpai in regular ladder wants to do is use Super Poly, but they can't do it in this event because they are limited to only playing Synchros. So overall, I think this is a decent strategy. It's something that I'll probably play. If you want to see content on this, let me know. For the extra deck, triple Baylings, one Update Jammer, triple Sunlight Wolf, one Splash Mage, one Little Knight, which, you know, you normally won't be able to make because you're locked into Fire or Cyberse, but in the off chance on the follow-up, if you need to make a Little Knight, you always want to have that utility there. One transcode, again, to go into the Update Jammer or recurring the Update Jammer in order to OTK with a access code talker. Promethean Princess for Salamangreat is huge. This card is fantastic. And then triple Raging Phoenix. So, you know, you may not need to play a Code of Soul because if you're not going to be on the Pyro Phoenix for wiping, whoop, don't want to search Pyro. I can't spell Phoenix here apparently, but this is a good option during your opponent's turn. You can link this off with the field spell up, using itself as material by activating the Code of Soul in the graveyard to bring this out onto the field using itself as material and then blow up every card your opponent controls, right? It's a full field wipe. So you could opt to include that, but I opted to go the OTK route. We'll see how good it goes, but you can do either one. So that's Salamangreat. We won't save this deck list just for now. We're going to move to the second link strategy. Yeah, this video might be kind of long, guys, so make sure you check the timestamps if you made it this far if you want to see something in particular. Another good budget option is going to be Marincess. The core of the Marincess deck is actually pretty cheap. The only ultra rares that you need, and you may not even need it, is like Coral Triangle. This helps you search the trap card, Marincess Wave, and then Argonaut. And I would say Argonaut is really your only core end board piece. The reason why this strategy is going to be decent is, again, into Tenpai Dragon, which is probably going to be the most popular deck, or even into Fusion strategies, setting up an unaffected by everything spell and trap negate in the Aqua Argonaut being made with the Crystal Heart, while you have the Battle Ocean on field. Again, no Max C, so these link strategies have a little bit more open field in order to execute their strategy. So you do still have to worry about Nibiru, but that's why we play things like Abyss Shark and Sea Nettle to extend if possible. But this will allow you to hopefully protect your Battle Ocean from any form of destruction. And then this card is unaffected by everything. So your opponent can't even interact with this card if the Battle Ocean survives and stays on field and you have the Crystal Heart protecting it. In addition to this, we take a look at how is Marincess functioning. It is a link-based strategy, so there's no fusions or synchros or anything that you'd use with this. In previous events, Marincess Wave has usually either been banned or limited to 1. You have full range to run 3 if you want. And this card is really important because while you control a Marincess Link monster, target one face-up monster your opponent controls, negate that face-up monster's effects until the end of this turn. Then, so you have to negate the effects in order to get the part after the then. If you control a Link 2 or higher, all face-up monsters you control are unaffected by your opponent's card effects until the end of this turn. That means your opponent cannot wipe your field out if this resolves, right? So if they don't have the Sangan Summoning, which again you could negate potentially with the Argonaut, right, being a spell and trap negate here during your opponent's turn when a spell or trap card effect is activated on field or effect is activated on field, you can special summon a Marincess monster that's equipped to this card and then negate that activated effect, right? So if you out the Sangan Summoning, which is limited to 1 in this event, spoiler alert, you can then Marincess Wave and protect your whole field from any other forms of wipes with the Marincess Wave. And again, you can activate this from hand if you control a Link 3 or higher Marincess card. So a pretty decent strategy. Again, if you get interrupted pretty heavily, you can always thrust into the Threatening Roar. Again, this is more tech that I'm just putting into the deck here in order to protect yourself from an OTK. Even if you're not up against Tenpai, like this is just good insurance overall. And then you can hopefully combo off next turn. Again, not having to worry about Max C is just so nice. In addition to that, you are also playing Ghost Ogre, which I think is a decent card overall because, again, it's going to allow you to pop the field spell Sangan Summoning. So even if you have to use up your spell and trap negate on the Argonaut here on, like, let's say a Lightning Storm or a Feather Duster, hopefully you have an Ogre in hand that you can just have backup in case your opponent does have the Sangan Summoning, and then if they activate it, you can pop it. So a decent strategy overall. Marincess is definitely a deck I think that can definitely contend. I guess, you know, going over the core engine, saying that like you really only need Argonaut because you could play 3 waves, so you may not need to search it off Coral Triangle. But I would say you probably want the Zelantis as well, because Marincess has a hidden, I don't know if it's really hidden, but a very powerful combination lock, because Marincess Coral, an enemy, which you always make in your combos, has the effect that says you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn except water monsters when you use this effect. And so if you go into this and then you use Zelantis, you know, let's say you go second, or you know, you're on turn 3 now and your opponent has a board. If you use the Zelantis and then you banish everything and bring everything back, you can only bring back water monsters, which means whatever your opponent has on their field will not come back, because you can't bring it back for them because you're locked by the Coral here. So naturally through this extension, this card is just a full field wipe for your for you against your opponent when you can get it off. So again, a 1-card starter deck. Any of these Marincess cards combos off, right? Because you can search for dives, you can search for Battle Ocean, and then you have some protection and a decent amount of room for hand traps as well with the Ash, the Effect Veiler. So the full deck list is Effect Veiler, 2 Mandarin, 2 Ghost Ogre, triple Ash Blossom, 1 Silent Angler that you can use to search with the Abyss Shark. So again, this is just another form of extension, because you're going to want as many extenders as you can in a deck like this in case you get interrupted. Triple Blue Tang, which again, traditionally has been limited to 1. Triple Pascalis, 1 Sea Nettle, which is just another extender here, and potentially Recursion, because you can banish this card from the graveyard and return 3 water monsters, so returning some of your extra deck boss monsters if they get outed, let's say. 3 Spring Girl, 2 Abyss Shark, 2 Signet Mining, 1 Talons in order to be searched off Thrust if necessary, 2 Dive, and this is why Thrust is also good in this deck, is because Thrust can thrust you into engine cards like Dive, since it's a normal spell, or, you know, board breakers like Talons, and protection like Threatening Roars, right? So I think Thrust in a deck like this is actually kind of decent. 1 Battle Ocean, 2 Call by the Grave, again to stop ashes and stuff like that if necessary, 1 Cross Out, 2 Droplet, just because you can dodge imperms, right? Using Droplet if you go second, or if you get to turn 3. So Droplet is good, also just decent to negate effects if you need to. 1 Threatening Roar off of the Thrust to be searched, triple Infinite Impermanence, and double Marincess Wave. And again, another reason why you may not need to do the Coral here is because Thrust can also get you Marincess Wave if necessary to set it if you go first, as well as a negate. But you probably just go for Threatening Roar, right? Anyway, so that is the second deck in Marincess. The third deck here, believe it or not, I don't know if this is actually going to work, but I just noticed that Yubel is basically fully unlimited, or at full power basically, compared to how it is on ladder at least. So if you go to Forbidden here, obviously the fusions are not allowed in the Link event, so you can't make Phantom of Yubel as a monster negate, but you can still make every other Link, right? So you really only have to fear Nibiru in a deck like this. So again, you can see why other events like the Fusion and the Synchros will be playing Nibiru, but as a Link player, you probably don't want to play Nibiru. But if you can play through the Nibiru, or you don't get Nibiru, this deck will still be extremely strong despite not having Phantom of Yubel, simply because you still have all your extenders. You can still go pretty much into the Unchained combo. You spam a lot of bodies on the field. You can set up the Appaloosa. You can set up the Interruptions with the Unchained Soul of Rage, and you have protection against, hopefully, Sangan Summoning, unless they have board breakers in the Escape of the Unchained to pop the Sangan Summoning. But they probably, you know, Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, Heavy Storm, whatever your back row before that anyways. But hopefully you'll have enough to survive with the Yubel cards regardless. So again, the Thrust into the Threatening Roar package is pretty decent here. Yeah, I didn't play the game when Thrust came out, so I never got these, so I'll probably have to craft them now, but you know, I got 1,300 points, so it shouldn't be an issue. And then same thing with the Ghost Ogres, right? Just another more backup insurance with hand traps. I don't think you necessarily want to play something like Ghostfell here or Mourner. I think between Ash, Veiler, and Ghost Ogre, these are probably the strongest. If you're really fearing Tempai, you could also tech in DD Crow to banish the Synchros from the graveyard, because the Sangan Summoning does not protect the Synchros in grave, so prevent the Bident Dragon or the Transcendent Dragon from coming back. And Droll and Lockbird is also a decent hand trap that you could be using in this event for the Link side as well. So the Yubel deck, you know, 1 driver, because you're going to be playing Gamma in this build, 2 Effect Veilers, triple Samsara D Lotus, double Gruesome Grave Squirmer, double Dark Beckoning Beast, 2 Ghost Ogre, 1 Unchained Shoal of Savara, 1 Yubel, triple Spirit of Yubel, 1 Yubel Terror Incarnate, 1 for 1, 1 Triple Tactics Talent, 1 Piri Reese Map, hopefully I'm saying that one correctly, double Triple Tactics Thrust, which again in a deck like this can search you a 1 for 1, which can get you into your engine here, which is it searching Samsara D Lotus there? That's actually crazy. I never even noticed that. Wow. How iconic, I guess. Anyways, yeah, it can search you that. It can search you the map here. It can search you Thrust, obviously. It can't search field spell or the opening of the spirit gates, which is limited to 2 now, or the phantom, nightmare pain. But that's totally fine because again, you can always search out threatening roar or imperm or even the unchained cards if you wanted to. But yeah, triple field spell, double opening, double nightmare pain, double called by, 1 cross out, 1 threatening roar, triple infinite impermanence, 1 escape of the unchained, 1 abominable chamber of the unchained, and then for the extra deck, you've got 1 Almirage, 1 Unchained Soul of Rage, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Muckracker, 2 Unchained Soul Lord of Yama. Or actually, you know what? I was going to buy a couple of these, and they're sitting in my cart for like an actual like paper TCG. I got to make sure I check out with those. Glad that this got a reprint in the tins, and they're cheap now. Anyways, double SP Little Knight, 1 Unchained Soul of Anguish. So again, you could Soul of Rage, Soul of Anguish into SP, which is pretty strong here. 1 Appaloosa, 1 Unchained Abomination, so you can afford to put a card like this in as well as Underworld Goddess now, since you don't have the 2 slots with the fusion being taken up, and then 1 Access Code to hopefully OTK. You don't have Chaos Angel as well, which is normally played in this deck, and I still got 2 slots. I didn't even realize I didn't finish off this deck, but yeah, you have some room here. You can put in some maybe some of the Nightmare cards if you want, because they're also fiends. Maybe put in like Nightmare Unicorn or Nightmare Phoenix. So these are options as well, or even Griffin, right? So you can still spam the board with a lot of bodies in order to put up powerful link monsters with the strategy. Not sure if it's actually going to be great, but it is pretty much fully available aside from the non-link monsters that you would normally play in Yubel. And I just realized I didn't cover, sorry to jump back, the extra deck for Marincess, but it's usually pretty standard. It's 3 Blue Slug, 2 Sea Angel, triple Coral, an enemy, 1 Crystal Heart. You could opt to play 2 of these if you want as well. 1 Splash Mage, 1 Marbled Rock, 1 Coral Triangle, 1 Bubble Reef, 1 Aqua Argonaut, and 1 Zelantis as well. And the final link strategy here that I think is going to be quite decent, it used to be a budget option, and I guess you can still make it to be a budget if you want, but to really play it optimally, I think you do need to spend some ultra rare points, because ideally you'd want 2 to 3 Shavara, you'd want basically 3 Tour Guide, you'd want the Unchained Soul Lord of Yama. So these are all ultra rare in-engine cards basically, and I count the Tour Guide as an engine card. But yeah, Unchained probably will be very good for this event. Again, suffers against Nibiru as every link strategy will, but you don't have to worry about Max C. So half of the reason why you can't combo off is gone, right? If you can play through Nibiru too, that's great. Unfortunately, you don't have access to the Caesar, which is an Xyz monster, because you're stuck with links. But if we look here, Unchained is basically untouched. It is fully unlimited for this event. So how you'd want to build this deck, in my opinion: 2 Effect Veiler, 2 Droll and Lockbird. You can opt to play this instead of Ghost Ogre, but you can play both if you want to. Triple Tour Guide, 1 Fiendish Rhino Warrior. So the combo is, you summon Tour Guide, you search Fiendish, or summon Fiendish Rhino Warrior, and then go into Yama, and then you get like kind of full combo from there. 2 Ghost Ogre, triple Ash Blossom, triple Aruha. I would go with 2 Rakeya and 2 Sarama. I know most lists play 1 and 1, but just being able to open a starter is pretty important. And I know Tour Guide is ideally what you want, but having these aren't necessarily bad either. You can obviously cut these to 1 and then just play more hand traps too if you really wanted to. 2 Unchained Soul of Shavara. Ideally, you'd want 3. And I'm opting to include the Shayama here. Again, you don't necessarily need to because you can't make the rank 6, but it's fine still as a back row destruction card. 1 Unchained Soul of Disaster, 1 Abominable Unchained Soul, 1 Heavy Storm, and Heavy Storm over Duster because you want to actually be able to pop your own trap cards in order to special summon. So Heavy Storm is actually better in this deck in my opinion. 1 Talent, and then again the thrust into the Threatening Roar if needed. And I just realized I didn't put in, look at this, I didn't put in the Searcher, Abomination's Prison. So yeah, you definitely want 3 of those in there. But you can also opt for an evenly matched as a 1-of because you can thrust into it on turn 2 if you go second. But yeah, you definitely want 3 Abominations Prison, 1 Talents, double thrust, double call by, 1 cross out, 1 Threatening Roar, 1 evenly matched, triple Imperm, and then double Escape and double Chamber. I've seen some lists play 3 and 3. You may not need to do that, and this is probably why I opted to include the extra ones of these. So maybe you do cut these because, yeah, you just have this instead, which can search these if needed anyways, right? So that's probably the ideal list there, guys. Sorry about putting 2 of these in there, but yeah, I just... when you're making these decks late at night, trying to get them ready for the video that you're going to make the next day, you often forget things. But as long as we catch them, that's okay. So I think that's how you want to build the deck. I don't think you play Wailing, although you could. anytime you link summon an Unchained monster, you could just pop a card. It is kind of decent as a turn 1 card, right? So if you're expecting a lot of tempi, you put it in there. But the issue is, even if you link off during the opponent's turn, right, this card probably doesn't have much interaction if you can't interact with your opponent's cards if they have the saying against summoning, but also for the fact that they'll probably just back row removal this anyways. And the nice thing about Unchained is if they back row removal you against your escape or your abominable chamber, you can opt to activate them, or you can just let them get destroyed in order to bring out more Unchained cards, right? And if these get destroyed, you can bring out more from the deck, let's say. So Unchained should have a decent matchup in Tempai, I would think, as long as they don't go Transcendent Dragon first and then enter battle phase so you can't activate anything. But hopefully you'll have enough protection to stop them either way if you go first. So yeah, a lot of this event is being focused around beating Tempai. But that's going to do it for my 4 link strategies. Let's go ahead and look at Fusion next.